Hello, everyone. This is Gia Jones here with Parent Voices Unfiltered, and we are glad to have you all here. Um, Today, we have an exciting topic. Um, our topic today is public policies and collaboration. Excuse me. And I'm so glad to have our special guest. Um, from the Georgia Budget and Policy Institute to join us today. We'll be talking about some really important things relating to public policies, collaboration, and Black maternal health and childcare. And so, without further ado, we would love to hear from our guests from the Georgia Budget and Policy Institute.
Hi, thank you so much, Gia. Hello, everyone. My name is Finch Floyd. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the Director of Economic Justice at the Georgia Budget and Policy Institute. Gia and I got connected not when I was working at this organization, but another organization called the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, which is a national policy research and advocacy organization, nonpartisan. And we wrote a piece together about the importance of cash and what it means for families to have economic security and secure housing. And that was also when I got connected with Parent Voices. And I learned a lot from them on how to create a really dynamic panel with parent leaders. And they taught me a lot about advocacy and activism that still stays with me today. So just really appreciative of Parent Voices and Gia for having me speak to you all today. Let me just offer a little bit of background about myself and where I work at the Georgia Budget and Policy Institute. So we are not in California, but as you can tell by the name. But we are again, a nonpartisan policy research and advocacy organization. So we do our own research on different policies in the state and then also advocate at the state level for those policies and try to push back against policies that we think would undermine economic opportunity across the state. Our mission, in fact, is to ensure economic opportunity for all Georgians. And we are working to and striving to do that in an anti-racist way, right? So undoing policies, racist policies that disproportionately impact Black and Brown folks, and finding alternatives that would certainly support Black and Brown Georgians, but all Georgians. Truly. So we work on a lot of different issue areas. So as you might have guessed, because of our name, we focus on the state budget and revenues. We also do work on K through 12 education, early childhood, care and education, higher education. We do work on health, immigration, and worker justice issues like around job quality, and also supports that people need when work isn't enough. So like food stamps or SNAP or cash assistance, things like that. And we've been around for almost 20 years. But I have come to GBPI, came in 2021. So I still feel pretty new, but I think I'm finally getting my sea legs in state policy. So it's been really, really great. And then just a little bit more about me. I'm a native Georgian, born and raised outside of Atlanta, and have come back to Atlanta. And it really does feel like coming home, because I also come from a very big family with 6 brothers and sisters, and most of them are back in Georgia with my parents. So it's really great. And I also have 2 kids and my partner who's very supportive. So I just really love Georgia, but also love connecting with advocates across the country about issues that concern us all. About how can we live lives with dignity? Um, how can we live lives that are joyful? And we are not stressed and worried and concerned about how we're going to put food on the table or how we're going to pay our bills. So happy to be here, Gia.
Oh, thank you so much. Super glad to speak with you today. And I, like I was telling, everyone, I'm like super thrilled with your work at the Georgia Budget and Policy Center or Institute, sorry. Um, and I think it's really, awesome to really talk about all the great work that advocates and policy analysts are doing throughout our country. And so, as you may hear, my little one, she's walking around the back. But yeah, so it's really important work. And I know that the Policy Institute works to advance, solutions that are expanding opportunities and well-being for families. And so I really wanted to talk about, particularly, I know you recently did a report on SNAP and also Black maternal health crises. Can you talk a little bit more about how SNAP has actually been very beneficial for families across our nation, not just in Georgia, but also I can speak to Californians.
Yeah, absolutely. So SNAP is probably the biggest and most effective anti-hunger program that we have in the country. And just so we aren't kind of living in wonky land, it is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, but people used to know it as food stamps, right? Now it comes on an EBT card. But that's it's more or less the same program. And what it does is it helps people put food on the table, if they might be working, but working is not enough, right? Like those wages don't go far enough, or they could be seniors, relying on a low and fixed income, or have a disability, or be a family with children, um, who again just have low income. A lot of people who receive SNAP benefits are living in with very, very low levels of income, living in poverty or very close to the poverty line, right? And not only does it help them put food on the table, but it also provides additional resources to that family, and in a lot of cases helps lift people Um, above the poverty line, right? I know that SNAP isn't enough, right? I'm not saying that it's everything to everybody, but it is a critical support. And in terms of food security, I mean, we food basically, again, I'm trying not, let me stop trying to use these extra wonky terms. I got to check myself. I got to check myself. But basically, when people can't, don't always have the money, right, to afford a healthy meal, right? That's basically what food insecurity means, right? Or sometimes they're skipping meals, right? Um, when that happens, what SNAP helps to do is reduce the incidence of that happening. And some research that we've seen from the federal government is that food stamps or SNAPs helps reduce those incidents by 30%. Um, and in some cases, maybe more. So it's a really critical and essential program, for a number of reasons. And during the pandemic was a lifeline for a lot of folks who all of a sudden didn't have a job
Mhm.
because of things closing down, um, and SNAP benefits um, got boosted in a number of different ways and help people continue to feed themselves, feed their families, um, you know, in a lot of uncertainty. And even when we started kind of seeing the economy improve, right, we also then started seeing those food costs go up. And it was SNAP that buffered against that for a lot of folks, millions of people across the country. So it really is a critical program. Not only does it help support people economically and get put food on the table, it helps boost their health outcomes. And then also in the local economies, it supports those, farm stands, in the local communities, those grocery stores, those corner stores, right? Like it's not just important to individuals and families, it's important to communities as well.
Yes, you're so right. I know the PBT benefits are really helpful for families, especially with the school-aged children. Um, I know, the kids benefit from being able to buy additional like food or snack items after school. And I know they also just sent out cards this summer, so they expanded the PBT benefits for the summer for kids. So it's really helpful for families that are eligible for those benefits, that they're aware that uh, there is additional support in making sure their families are getting additional help with food, you know, and I know that it also helps, with additional things like with health and child development,
Yes.
making sure our kids are staying healthy, and so those things are really important for us to make sure people are getting the proper information, and if they haven't received those cards, that they're checking in to making sure you know that they have access to those additional benefits. What else? I know you said it helps to reduce food insecurity, especially with post pandemic. Are there any additional findings that you would like to share?
Yeah, well, you kind of mentioned it, and I'll kind of just expand on what you said when you talked about like child development. So there was when food stamps first started in the, late 60s and early 70s, how it expanded is that it didn't kind of expand across the country uniformly, right? So some areas got it and some areas didn't. Certain counties got it and certain counties didn't, right? Eventually it expanded across the whole country, but in the initial rollout, it wasn't uniform. And so researchers were able to utilize that for, some analysis. And what they did is looked at, you know, um, the children of mothers who received food stamps while they were pregnant with that child and those who didn't. And they found the long term impacts of the kids who, again, were in utero when their mother received food stamps, or even were young kids and their families received food stamps, and found higher impacts or strong impacts around academics, around health in adulthood, not just child health, but like well into adulthood, lower cardiovascular issues, for example, and then even overall better earnings, right? So I think what this kind of shows is SNAP, but not just SNAP, right? I think something that any kind of program that provides substantial and sustained support for people really can have long term impacts. There's actually a lot of research coming out now about, you know, when we're investing in kids when they're really, really young, that can be really meaningful long term. And I think this study on SNAP is a fantastic example of that. Gia, there's also just one more piece I want to mention is that our federal legislators are going to be reconsidering SNAP this fall in a piece of legislation called the Farm Bill. And the Farm Bill is, again, legislation that governs a lot of agricultural programs and rural programs, but it also governs, and some other food programs as well, but it also governs the SNAP program as well. Um, and it's reconsidered about every 5 years, and it's an opportunity to try to improve, bolster, expand the reach of SNAP, make it more effective at doing its job better. Um, well, at the same time, there's opportunities for improvement. There's also some risks that people might want to try to change it to reduce access or cut or limit benefits and things like that. So if that's not on your radar, certainly get plugged in with different advocacy groups that are tracking and following the Farm Bill. And if you have stories, it's important to talk to your federal delegates about that. Gee, I didn't know if you had a question. I didn't know if you were going to say something about that.
Oh no, that's really great. I know a lot of organizations like Epic, in poverty in California, they're highlighting some of the stories related to farmers and kind of the difficulty experienced during the pandemic, the overall like pressure of like this industry and how important it is. And so I think that is wonderful because it is such an important part of like uh, understanding well-being and things that help all of us take really great care. So no, that I think definitely that is a really important piece to keep on our radar as far as like understanding further um, the more scope of like the landscape of public policies moving forward this upcoming year. So thank you for that information. um, I'll definitely take note of that too. Um, so thank you. And then also, you also have been doing really great, awesome work in highlighting the importance of Black maternal health. And so I did get a chance to also read some of your work about, um, you know, understanding the importance of uh, mothers that may be more at higher risk um, and the need for additional research. Can you share a little bit more about what, moving forward, how legislation could actually do better in addressing these things for Black moms?
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel I am not a health expert and or no, or expert in public health, but um, this piece is I'm passionate about it as a Black woman, as a Black mother, um, and have and reproductive justice in general, right? So reproductive justice is, you know, understanding the rights for people to decide whether to have children or not have children, having access to bodily autonomy, and also if you are whatever family you decide to have, right, raising and caring for that family with dignity, right? And that framework of reproductive justice is really powerful to me because it's so intersectional. Um, and for me, I want to continue to elevate how people's um, finances, how people's economic circumstances interplays with their health outcomes. And that's really been my background. My background has been in public benefits and particularly cash benefits. And so a couple of the pieces that I wrote for my organization One, I collaborated with our health expert, and again, she elevated a lot of the things that we can do in Georgia. This was specifically had a Georgia focus on the health side, and I focused on the economic security side. So, just to offer a little bit of context, Georgia is one of the worst states to have a baby. The latest maternal mortality review found that Black women, um, the percent of people, birthing people, Black women who died from pregnancy related causes or pregnancy associated causes, more than half of them were Black women. Um, and we have wide and broad maternity care deserts, particularly in the southwest part of the state, and areas outside of the Atlanta metro area. And that follows the lines of what we call the Black Belt in Georgia. And so that kind of relates to two things. Not just it relates to the Black soil in Georgia, but it also relates to kind of the population of where Black people are in Georgia, and where, like, a lot of the plantations were, and so counties that have high Black populations. And what we've seen, there's been a lot of great news reporting that shows that there have been more closures of maternity wards in Black counties, where we see in white counties there's been an increase. So there are so many um, uh, issues we have to deal with in Georgia, as I'm sure it's similar in California. But to even to begin to make a dent in the maternal mortality crisis that we have, but not just the mortality, right? Also people who almost died or who have significant health outcomes, poor health outcomes, during pregnancy and postpartum.
I know.
And yeah, go
I
ahead,
just,
sir.
yeah, I just wanted to speak to, I know that I was going to mention this a little bit later on, but
Yeah.
um, I know the piece that we actually collaborated on. I did make mention, with me having twins, and me being a Black mom, like different things that came up for me, in understanding like well-being and like the health of my kids. Like, um, typically, sometimes twins experience more challenges after
Yes.
birth, and so I we did talk about that as we were writing the piece. And so I think it is important to talk about those things to figure out like how to alleviate those stressors that come up during pregnancy, and like especially being a Black mom. This information is really important for us to be talking about, in the scope of improving health outcomes for our the moms giving birth to these beautiful children, and also that our kids are staying healthy. And
Right.
so I just wanted to make mention, um, then following that, I was also in talks with like my doctor and also health coach. So, it was, an actual process that I did experience in giving birth as a Black mom. And so I do find this to be very of importance.
I mean, I completely agree. And kind of what you said, those stressors, for me, that I don't feel like gets enough attention about the stressors are the economic stressors. I think when you get into kind of the public health context, you hear this very technical term of the social determinants of health. But basically, what it means is our health isn't doesn't live in this silo, right? Over here, this is where I have my colds. This is where I have, need to do my mental health check. It's not over here. It's all a part of our whole lives. And I often focus on what that means for people when they don't have enough money.
Hmm.
And in particular, but not exclusively, but in particular, cash. And one of the pieces I did was, okay, let's look at the research, right? And what the research shows is that cash programs like, for example, the Earned Income Tax Credit, which is a tax credit for people who earn low wages, um, and even monthly benefits or periodic benefits actually contribute, have um, a direct link, right? Not just correlation, right? Not just like a, oh, maybe they're related, but not necessarily there's a relationship. No, a direct relationship that when mothers birthing people get those resources when they are pregnant or expecting, um, it can actually improve birth outcomes, right? By lowering stress, by reducing kind of some of the indicators of high stress, right? Like if you're
Yeah.
a smoker, for example, a lot of people smoke because they're stressed, and that can contribute to how to poor birth outcomes.
Mhm.
So, you know, and I don't want to overstress that, right? I think there's more research that needs to be done because I don't want to say like, oh, that's the silver bullet. I think there are a combination of things we need to consider. But I think giving people money, and I think there's examples of actually programs in California that are doing that. The Abundance Birth Project, I believe, in Northern California. So I think it's just really, really critical to continue to elevate those connections between health and other areas of our lives.
You are absolutely correct, and I think in the larger scope, it's seemingly that we're working towards having like a more comprehensive um, ideal of like pregnancy and family, where you know, that's including childcare, including economic opportunity and stability, and also well-being. That it's it's this culminating experience that all moms, should be able to enjoy. And so that's what we're all working towards to make it more comprehensive in the experience of this important, life event for many people, that are having children. So the work is very important. Um, what so I know then also um, in your report you were also talking about the legislation such as SB 338, um, how I think it's talking about the postpartum, how moms would receive coverage up to 1 year after postpartum, and how this is like actually really huge for moms in Georgia too.
Yeah, no, that it was a really big win and it took a took a while. So, um, the viewers may know or not know, but we have not fully expanded Medicaid in Georgia. So we have a big health coverage gap, and mainly Black people fall into that gap. Um, and so it took a lot of, even though that has been a recommendation for years, it finally got done recently. I think it got done not 2023 session, but I think 2022 session, I believe. Um, I believe. But that was a really big and incredibly important win. So what it means is, um, after birth, a mother or birthing person can continue to receive Medicaid for 12 months. And that's really huge because um, we know that postpartum, you could still have health issues related to the birth or the pregnancy or your birth, right, that you had. And we need to make sure people have continuous access to care, or at least health coverage, so they can get the access to care to take care of those issues. In fact, I was just kind of reviewing the maternal mortality review um, in preparation for this call, and a lot of the deaths, they don't happen, like some of them happen right at the point of birth, but then it kind of the numbers kind of come down, and then it comes back up, right? Like 100 days after birth, 150 days after birth, right? So we need to make sure that all birthing people, black, brown, or white, but especially black folk, have that coverage, so they can continue to get access to care. What we really need to do in Georgia is fully expand Medicaid, because your health when you are a birthing person, when you are pregnant or post pregnancy, that starts before you even get pregnant, right? And having access to, you know, a primary care physician, um, someone who's an OBGYN, like all of that beforehand to help you manage your health, that's critical to a healthy pregnancy once you get pregnant, right? So we can't just be thinking about, those 9 months, those 40 weeks, right? We have to be thinking about a person's lifetime. So what we need in Georgia is really Medicaid expansion. That is, we have so many. Again, I think um, it will not solve everything, but it will be a huge benefit and gain. What we have in Georgia now is expansion light. So it is the governor's proposal, um, that expands Medicaid up to 100% of the poverty line. Fully expanding Medicaid is up to 132%, I think. So a look for above the poverty line. Let me just put it like that in layman's terms. But in Georgia, it goes only up to the poverty line. But for adults, you have to be working or meeting some kind of work reporting requirement. And that is just ridiculous, right? And we have seen from the cash assistance program, and we've also seen in SNAP that also has work reporting requirements, that those are one, that they are racist policy, right? They are based off of these racist ideas of welfare queens and people not being lazy, black people being lazy, black mothers not knowing how to take care of their kids, so they have to have these strict rules in order to do the right thing and encourage personal responsibility, right? Let's name that we have these racist narratives dictating our policy. But they've also found that these work requirements don't actually help folks. They do a better job of kicking people off programs than having people find quality jobs and improving their financial circumstances. Those are the facts. But that's what we have in Georgia. And it just started this summer, right, with all the other health stuff that's going on. I don't know if your audience is familiar with Medicaid unwinding, but that's happening across the country, of course. It's more intense in Georgia because we haven't expanded Medicaid. Um, but, so it's just a lot going on in the health space in Georgia. But we are going to be, GBPI is going to be tracking kind of that process. And you can go to our website to see how that's progressing. My health colleague, Leah Chan, does a great job of trying to kind of elevate what that means for folks. But again, back to maternal health, and specifically Black maternal health. Um, it is what Gia has been saying. It's about well-being, and our well-being is including so many facets of our lives. That's our health lives, our financial lives, our emotional lives, our social lives. So, we continue to try to communicate the interconnectedness and relatedness of all these policies.
I know. Right. Sorry.
No, you're
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I'm like blown away. It is very intricate, especially understanding, you know, indications of what impacts health and different stressors. So definitely, I did try to take a closer look at, things related to current like public health and the scope of family and paid family leave. And so I just wanted to make mention, like in California, um, we've also been working to expand paid family leave benefits, and so they were able to revise the formula and increasing the wages for families in California that go on leave after pregnancy related health. And so, these things are very important, especially if families are facing any economic challenges or as things change for families. So, as well, I'm paying attention to different things relating to how things are changing for families in California and what that means in accessing services. And
Hmm.
so that's what Parent Voices is also highlighting as
Yes.
we were able to get our family fees schedule in place through legislation, which is like really important for our families that need additional, spending money for our kids or, savings, other extracurricular activities that we have that like in our savings. We don't have to worry about family fees. And so, those things are, paying attention to how, after the pandemic, how things are changing for our families in this state.
Yeah.
So,
In California, is it just paid parental leave, or is there a broader family medical leave in California?
um, well, actually, it is. They have we have the PFL, the paid family leave, and then we have FMLA,
Mm-hmm.
and so we do have, parents or families or caregivers are able to be compensated for caring for a loved one, whether it's like a child or relative. So we have been working to expand the actual rate that they are being compensated. um, so yes, they have been working on uh, those particular legislations. Um, I think particularly like within the past year, they
Hmm.
really tried to highlight making sure we're expanding those paid family leave benefits for women, um, and addressing even health disparities and
Hmm.
things women of color are facing even throughout California. And so they also had some recommendations about paid family leave geared towards demographic collection of important information with reference to people's ethnicities, like who's accessing paid family leave, who are the women, applying for these benefits, and making sure we're um, keeping keeping up to date on what that means in our state. Are there more Black women accessing these services, or more Latino families are able to gain access? So we're just wanting to um, keep
That's
those
good.
things on our radar too.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So also, let's see. So this is really important information. So, in moving forward, we've been talking about really important things relating to maternal health, paid family leave, childcare. What are some things we kind of talked about it a little bit, but what are some things that you're working towards as a Georgia Budget and Policy Institute?
Yeah, thank you. So, so the my portfolio includes the things that I work on include SNAP policy, temporary assistance for needy families, TANF work. That's CalWorks in California, um, and paid leave and childcare. So those are those are all in different buckets, and so right now I'm doing a lot of engagement on Snap. That's Cal. Is that Cal Fresh in California? I think. Yeah, Cal Fresh. Okay, so that's what I've been
Yeah,
talking about. Cal
yeah,
Fresh.
Cal Fresh,
Cal
yeah.
Fresh. Cal Fresh. SNAP, CalFresh, food stamps. Yes. Got it. So, doing a lot of work at the federal level, but also at this kind of more administrative advocacy and outreach to inform people about some of the recent changes in SNAP around kind of the work reporting requirements, because a lot of people do not know about them. So I'm doing some outreach there. Um, we're also trying to work with our infant toddler coalition. That's the early care and education coalition, to really shed not just shed light on the childcare crisis, right, that we have, and the the worsening of the crisis once these federal stable grants end at the end of this month. Um, but also to say, in Georgia, we actually have a lot of cash on hand. Um, and we should be doing something with that. And we think that GBPI thinks that childcare should be one of the things that we do with that cash to make some major investments. So that's another issue that we're raising. And then on family leave, we have a very small family. It's parental leave. It's more narrow. It's just parental leave. Um, but our paid leave coalition, we got that passed in 2021. It's for um, state employees, so kind of state government and those who work at public universities and colleges and technical schools, and then also public K through 12 schools. So it's a 3-week policy. So very very small, but and we're also not sure how many people are benefiting from it, because again, I think awareness is an issue. So in the Pay Leave Coalition, our vision is certainly a broader family medical leave policy. But we are trying to make advances where possible. And we recently passed a bill that eliminated the sunset of a bill that allowed people to use 5 of their paid sick days to care for a family member, right? If a family member is sick, if your kid is sick, if your auntie's sick. So these are small. These are small steps. We recognize that, but we are hoping to kind of socialize and normalize the idea that, people need time off to care for themselves. People need time off to care for their families, and they should not be worried about losing their house or losing their place, or worry about putting food on the table because they are taking time off to care for their family or care for themselves, right? So we are continue to kind of lift up those messages and those narratives. And when we have done surveys, we have found like these family-centered policies, childcare, paid leave, these are things that all Georgians want, right? Many Georgians, particularly women in Georgia, recognize the high cost of childcare and what that means to their families. People across the state and across the country, right? There's a whole movement to really focus on, the care economy and what people need who are family caregivers, right? So um, again, we're having those conversations and pushing in Georgia in the same way. It's just a different political context, so we have to kind of be strategic about how we do that. But we certainly continue to have those bold visions like others do across the country, and are very much aligned with trying to make sure that our caregivers, that is in child care, or those who are in home caregivers, or those who are home health aides, et cetera, that they continue to be protected and supported, and that individuals and families also have the leave that they need to take care of themselves and their families. So yes, those are certainly some big things that I'm a part of, and I'm so happy that it's not just me, and that there's some really strong and great coalitions working on that.
Yes. That is excellent. Really important work. Let me see you draw a circle. A circle? Yes, you can. Yes. Um, so thank you so much. I did want to mention for I just recently did some more research on FFN care. We're talking about friends and family networks
Yeah.
in terms of childcare, how that's really important for families, particularly even like infant and toddlers, parents that have infant and toddlers, utilizing FFN care. And
Yes.
so, you, Mom? Yeah. Um, and so um, I think that's a really important point to just highlight. That there's some important work relating to FFN care, and we're really celebrating certain things with our childcare providers. That they are been really supportive even throughout the pandemic, um, and just making sure, you know, some of the essential workers are able to, help. Um, and that we're all back at work and super happy to see our children thriving and learning, and returning to the school setting. So it's all encompassing, but enjoying the work and being able to further important public policies for our families in California. And so I just wanted to tell you thank you so much for joining us today. We're super excited to always have you on, and it's always wonderful to collaborate with you. And I just wanted to tell everyone that you can see our stream online. Will be posted on our social media, and so just wanted to tell you again so much. Thank you for joining us. Do you have any other words for our Parent Voices families and other viewers watching?
I would just say, well, thank you for watching and listening. But also, I respect and value parent voices. And I just, continue to be in awe in the tremendous work that you all do and the activism that you all do, and continue to be a model, right, for advocacy and real change. So thank you so much for having me, and thank you, Gia, for hosting this. But I wish you so much success in all your upcoming campaigns. And let's continue to fight the good fight to support children and families.
Thank you so much. Well, everyone, this is Gia Jones, and this is Parent Voices Unfiltered. And until next month, we love you all and can't wait to hear from you all soon. Thank you.
Okay.